Hi, this is Tim with WatchBox at Dubai Watch Week 2021 with the owner of the elite watch brand Bovet, Mr. Pascal Raffy. Sir, welcome to the show.
Thank you to welcome me, Tim.
Now, Bovet's a little bit like Tesla in that you have almost no marketing, and the brand is very much the vision of just one man. How did you come to be the owner of Bovet? And tell us a little bit about its modern history.
Tim, it's all about passion. I'm a lawyer from my studies. I have been industrial in pharmaceuticals. I stopped everything only to take care of my oldest daughter, Audrey, that you met in New York. And she is delighted of this encounter, as Heather, our dear Heather. And in 2001, while taking care of my Audrey retired at 38 years old, I discovered the modern era of the House of Bovet. I knew the house. I have in my private collection beautiful pocket timepieces of the 19th century. And when I discovered the house, the owners told me if I was interested to give a chance to the house and to become a true facility. Under this concept and having a due respect for the house and what it was already doing, even not having facilities, I only asked uniqueness, exclusivity, quantities controlled and mastered, and notably through artisans. It took me 10 years to do so. So the vision of the house of today is paying respect to what the house is truly, to master mechanics and to know the way how to dress the timepiece. Since then, year after year, with the artisans, the engineer, the watchmakers, from the stamping up to assembling every single timepiece, we are trying to preserve our identity, which is unique, knowing that in true luxury, identity is the first asset. Luxury has to be small quantities and notably handcrafted. The orientation of the house is all about this. We are, I think, going to celebrate in the 1st of May 2022, 200 years of existence. We are a 200 years house with hearts so young, with so many projects for the future.
Could you talk about how you went about adding the ability to make cases, the ability to make movements, hairsprings, escapements? What was the building process like?
The fact is, Tim, when you are a collector, your vision is going to be how is it more fluid, natural, to have watchmakers and all the components up to the engineers, the stamping, as I was saying before, or the communication all around the table. When you have suppliers, and we do have suppliers for some treatments, because the scale of our production is 1,000 to 1,200 timepieces. Yes, it is useful to have the cases knowing the Amadeo system and its complexity. It is the first complexity of any Bovet timepiece. But being all around the table, you share since day one, since the first idea, everybody is on board. And to have all these talents inside the same house, the process is easier in terms of inside communication. And something very important, you need to involve the watchmakers, the engineers, the designers, everybody together. So every single timepiece coming alive has been the fruit of the efforts of everybody inside the house. And you gain time, even though a movement to be tuned will take 3 to 4 years. Below, I don't believe it's feasible. Knowing that we do our cases, dials, hands, movements, hairsprings inside the house of Bovet.
Now you've got more than just the ability to build the watch. You can enrich the watch. Tell me a little bit about the métier d'art that you have acquired over the years and conduct in-house.
It is absolutely crucial for myself. When I fall in love with the house of Bovet, it was about two things. The first thing is the mastery of movements, mechanics, beautiful mechanics, finishings. The decoration department is definitely one of the key departments of our facility. But on the other side, how are you going to dress the timepiece? With elegancy, with that deep sense for detail, with good taste. Engravings are part of the house of Bovet. The open case back has been invented by Edouard Bovet himself. It's not new. He has been the inventor. The fact that to have the enameling, all the techniques on dials, is it a guilloché, a cloisonné, a champ levé, the engravings, the miniature painting on enamel or mother of pearl or any other surface, it is to go to the continuity of what this house knows. It is its blood, its soul, and to find the artisans is very difficult. But this being said, we are proud to have them around us since the day I took over the house with a lot of pride.
Now this means almost anything you want on a Bovet watch can be obtained. You do bespoke, but then with Atelier Bovet you go beyond that. And you do about a third of your production. Am I right, about 800 to 1,000 watches? One third would be custom?
This year is going to be a little more. But in average, let's say between 30 to 40% of the timepieces delivered are bespoke timepieces.
Now what is available through Atelier Bovet? If I want to go custom on a watch, how much do I get to customize?
I have to tell you, as far as it is feasible without touching to a beautiful chronometry, the accuracy of the timepiece and its movements, I accept all kind of ideas. But it still has to be elegant. It must have a meaning. It's not to do only for the sake of doing. When you will have your timepiece on your wrist, you can even talk about settings. So I give you an example. 8 months ago, a very dear collector of mine wanted, and I find the idea so bright because it is Bovet. He wanted to set on the bezel of his timepiece and his bow pure pearls, like the pearls of the 19th century. But he wanted to wear it. All the challenge has been not about the design, the equilibrium, the beauty of the timepiece, mechanics and case. Is only to tell him that he will have to be very cautious when wearing his timepiece because the pearl, as you know, is more fragile. So all that process, intellectual, sharing with collectors, doing sketches, trying to find together the right way to tune the timepiece, this is the journey, this is the passion. And then it can take from 1 month to 3 years.
Now, if collectors want to come and visit you, are they able to visit the factory and participate directly in this process? Sort of like visiting Porsche?
To link to one of your, the things you were saying, Tim, yes, indeed, marketing is not presently the main concern of the House of Bovet and myself. I rather prefer to transmit the passion of the house, the eye sparkling of the artisans. When you do visit the facility, we have a facility of 69 artisans. We are at the castle in Moutier, not because it's a castle. It is because it belonged to the Bovet family in the 19th century. And a true luxury house must have an address. The address of the House of Bovet is the former castle of the Bovet family. And the visit of the facility is the best way to enter in our world, to understand that it can take a lot of time to tune a Bovet timepiece, to bespoke it. And the best marketing of the House of Bovet is to transmit that passion, these values, by visiting and by coming to visit us. So we are open and we do per year dozens and dozens of visits.
Well, that's outstanding, and I can see that it's probably the best way to buy a watch, to meet the people who create it and see the place where it's made. But these last 2 years have been challenging with the pandemic. Since you mostly don't advertise and travel was restricted, how have you reached collectors from Bovet to the wide world in the last 2 years?
Tim, it is, I'm going to give a very simple answer, but it is synced into integrity and reality. We are at the benefit to have extraordinary partners around the globe. We are here in Dubai, celebrating, by the way, 50 years of the UAE. This, and again, fantastic and beautiful, elegant edition of Dubai Watch Week. Every time is that step further of elegancy and organization. It is thanks to your partners. It has been very challenging. But when your ambassador is an expert, he truly loves watchmaking, then it becomes easier. The most difficult thing was for me to get used to see collected through Zooms, because I'm much more a gentleman to be in the facility. I love to share my time with my artisans. But we all learn. And it has been then feasible, knowing that the partners were here to support, appreciating what we do in our house.
So now, moving to the watches themselves, you have 3 primary product lines. You've got Fleurier, you've got the Damier collection, and then you've got the Pininfarina collection.
Absolutely.
Could you take me through, starting with the Fleurier collection, because I think it's probably the most distinctive. Talk a little bit about what distinguishes that line and the case designs.
It is the respect paid to what the House of Bovet is. A unique design, the pocket timepiece that the house always had, but featuring something absolutely unique. We do see a lot of watches nowadays with the crown at noon. We do see some convertibilities, but convertibility is unparalleled like this one by only pressing the 2 screws at noon, opening your case back without any tool. You can have your timepiece on your wrist from this side, the open side, or by adapting your strap, you can have the full dial side, so already 2 uses. It is also the most unique table clock you will ever find. And if you had to close your case back, as I'm going to do now, and adapt this chain, we're going to have a true unique pocket timepiece. So 4 uses in one single timepiece. But this baby has all its components made in-house. So the production, our handcrafting, is limited every year because you have such level of engineering brilliance and by the same time decorative arts that you cannot do thousands of these timepieces.
Now, in 2018, you won the GPHG Aiguille for the Grand Recital, the 22. This is a watch that incorporates everything: artisanal craft, design innovation, watchmaking at the highest level. When you produce a watch like that, who is the customer you have in mind, or do you just create the watch that you imagine?
I would like to tell you, Tim, it's not a selfish answer, but it is a reality. Before then presenting a timepiece, which is going to take between 3 to 6 years to develop, and the Grand Recital has been a very long process, as you said, it's very complex. I need to be comfortable that this timepiece is going to represent a meaning, a sustainability in the whole Bovet collection. When we see the astronomical timepieces, we would think, but why Bovet entered in astronomical timepieces? There is a clear reason. When Edouard Bovet went from Fleurier to London, from London to Guangdong, he traveled, walking, by horse, by boat. He admired the planet, the sky, the moon. So for me, traveling is linked to the house of Bovet. So the Grand Recital was a tellurium. After the shooting star and the asterium came the Grand Recital. And the Grand Recital is Sun, Earth, Moon. And as you know, we have an Earth turning in 24 hours. The Moon, precision moon phase turning really in 29 days, 12 minutes, 45 seconds. And then the crafting. It is absolutely the house of Bovet. And the movement is seated, as you know, on a perpetual calendar retrograde with 9 days of power reserve. This being said, all these complications stay smooth on your wrist. You can have this timepiece on your wrist. It's a 46 millimeter in the writing slope case. And people think it was a design exercise. No, it is also because when we have that angle of 6 degrees on our wrist, the dial comes easier to our face. We read more easily the time.
And you would need bevel gears to make that change from the axis of the power to the axis of the dial.
Absolutely.
So, you know, form follows function. Now, I think people believe maybe because Bovet watches are highly ornate that they're old-fashioned or traditional, but you've done some things that are very modern. For example, with the Virtuoso 8, a Chapter 2 reimagined, you know, you're using modern metals, you're using lightweight metals, you're using a lot of super luminova. Could you talk about how you make that jump to a more avant-garde watch from your traditional style?
It was really an exercise with a collector of mine. He wanted luminescence. And by the way, when you see in the Grand Recital the globe, which is hand-painted through microscope with luminescence, the precision moon phase, which is the true topography of the moon, handcrafted with luminescence, it is also to give light, passion to the timepiece itself. So during the day, you will see on the Virtuoso 8 these 2 dials and also the second ring below the cage of the tourbillon. So you will ensemble your cage afterwards. You will see luminescence, but when you have it on your wrist, you don't know it's luminescent. It's no need to say that it is luminescent. It is the fact that if you enter in obscurity, you will be able to perfectly read the time still. This was the message. It was not about a fashion. Fashion is ephemeral. Tradition lasts. And it is to serve the ease of the collector to still be able to read the time.
Now, in addition to these progressive statements that Bovet has made by working with collectors, by adopting new materials, by being extravagant with lume, you've given up a little bit of control with your third model line, and since 2010, you have been in a partnership with Pininfarina. What was that like to bring in an outsider to help with the design of a watch that you identify so closely with yourself?
I have to tell you, Tim, if you take the 1930 true pocket timepiece of the 19th century of the House of Bovet, look at its bow. It's not a classical rounded bow. It is a rectangular one. At that time, it was considered to be modern. So breaking the curves of the normal Bovet timepiece. The story of the beautiful partnership with Paolo Pininfarina in his house is a human encounter, like with your collectors, like with your dear partners. We were in Carmel, sharing a moment at the show, and we were at the same table. After 4 hours, we started chatting, and you, what are you doing? Very simple things. And we were talking about family, values, tradition, what can last, perennity for family houses. And then, at the end of this talk, passion everywhere, he told me, Pascal, I design cars, boats, buildings. Will you allow me to design a Bovet timepiece? Will you allow me to have my vision of what a Bovet timepiece can be in 2010? And came the 80, up to the 86, and presently the Battista timepiece. So it is a human, everything starts with a contact, with human beings sharing the same values than use for excellency, and you know, the genius pen they have when they design something.
Now, Pininfarina certainly does, and I know down in South Florida we had an entire beachfront designed by them, so they run the gamut from cars to infrastructure, architecture, and even watches. But you've also made forays into the world of women's watches. You have the Miss Audrey, and congratulations on the only watch auction. You did exceptionally well. Mm-hmm. How do you go about designing a lady's watch? Do you have to bring in other input? Are women part of that process?
I have to tell you, it is again through our way of living. It's true, being a gentleman, being a collector, I have been more, it was easier for me to express the values of our house through gents' timepieces. And through the years we learn, we share, we talk with our managers, ladies, what they would like with our collectors. And the Miss Audrey also is named under the name of my oldest daughter, and we have collections under the name of each of my 3 children. It's all about passion. And these inputs came, for example, for the sweet art collection. The hands form a heart, because I always call my daughters my heart, hearty, always, and sweetie, sweetheart. So from where came the extraordinary idea of the sugar collection? From a simple day in the courtyard of the castle, like for the astronomical timepieces looking at the sky. I always look at the Orion belt. I have 3 children, and you know the 3 stars are aligned. Wherever I'm on the planet, I'm looking to my children, seeking the Orion belts. And for the sweet art collection, it was saying, Pascal, you have the Miss Audrey, which won 1 year before, in 2020, the award of the ladies' timepiece at the Grand Prix d'Horlogerie de Genève. And then I said, sweetie, the heart, and came the idea of the sugar. It's simple and so complicated to master. And it took us months and months with our genius artisan to master the sugar in order to make it absolutely not melting, supporting humidity, heat, all the circumstances. And now the sugar collection is bringing that smile on the face of ladies. And on the other side, every single die by definition team becomes a unique dial. You cannot repeat assembling crystal by crystal on a dial, and after choosing the colors, mastering, every die is going to be unique by definition.
So I have to say, it's beyond the scope of what I've spoken to a lot of brand managers about. And they've said, oh, you know, ladies' watches, we just got together and a bunch of guys drew it. I'm like, I don't know, that's a little bit of a strange approach. So your collaborative approach, especially within the family, must feel very special and very personal. Do you, I know you can't pick favorites among kids, but do you have favorites among your model line?
No, I have to say very openly, as usual, you see, when we did the extraordinary collaboration with the House of Rolls-Royce, with the timepieces, it was never done, ever done, to have a real mechanical tourbillon on the dashboard of a car. You know, Tim, if you want to fix a timepiece of 200 grams on the dashboard of a car, if you don't succeed the crash test, it becomes a bullet. You can really hurt somebody. Humidity, vibrations, magnetism. It was for me, for the pride of the artisans. Let's not forget, we need 2 hands to applaud. It's good to have a vision, but without the other hand, we can do anything. And it was, for me, the fact to share with our artisans and everybody in the house that we're going to be able to do it. At the beginning, we said, come on, this is going to be a challenge. But we are all driven by the fact that we need challenges to keep our passion alive.
That's a great transition to a question I wanted to ask.
Excuse me, Tim. May I interrupt you, if you don't mind? But I did not answer totally your question, so I feel a little, I have to answer it.
Pumping the brakes.
So every time, it's true, it's going to be the next timepiece coming, the favorite. Why? Because we want to bring our artisans, they always say, Mr. Raffy, what can we do now? Can we make the impossible possible? And we try to find a logical idea sustainable in our collections.
That's an even better transition to the question I was going to ask.
Thank you.
What are the challenges you see in the future? What motivates you most? Is it a new style watch, a new market? a new customer?
No, Tim, in the house of Bovet, what challenges me the most, you know, when you're a collector, you enter in the world, you dive into a movement. The most beautiful part and challenging is the human being. If you are in an industrial process and every watch timepiece is respectable because behind you have artisans, you have human beings. But at that level of uniqueness, finishes, decorative arts, mechanics mastered, it must be so precise. And defending that elegancy, the artisans, the team, always, since and for always. Because ideas, we are protected for ideas. I have in my drawers for the next 10 years, I think interesting things, but with the artisans, with themselves. This is the most beautiful journey, the human being.
Sir, thank you very much.
I thank you also, Tim. Thank you very much. Gentlemen, thank you.